Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to take a look at a very strong team for the Element Cup with Ducklett on the lead. I mean, it is pretty much mandatory to run Ducklett in this meta and then two Chinchou answers in the back. It is absolutely crucial that you're running Shadow Chikorita, and I'm going to show you why in the very first game, which is why I'm running mine despite the fact that it has frustration. I don't have one without frustration. Bulbasaur is a little more debatable. It just pretty much has to be any grass type of your choice. I like Bulbasaur. Shadow Bulbasaur can also work, but pretty much just any grass type really. Going into the first game, we lead into a Chinchou. Yikes. We have to save swap Shadow Chikorita immediately, and they respond with a Shadow Vulpix with quick attack. And this is the exact reason why Shadow Chikorita is such a good save swap, because this Body Slam does enough damage so that we can Vine Whip the Vulpix down afterwards. Shadow Chikorita wins the 2 shields against Shadow Vulpix if it's running quick attack, with 1 Vine Whip's advantage. Absolutely huge. Now we can just farm it down. We do spend 2 shields, but now Ducklett does not have to see the Chinchou. Instead, it's gonna see this Pharisee. The Pharisee is very good at sponging up energy from grass types, which is kind of annoying because now we're just gonna throw a lot of body slams into this, which these are resisted. Go for a third body slam. And now you see the health bar looks kind of weird after we throw this. Whenever it looks like that, that means they're swapping out. So I knew they were bringing Chinchou, so now I'm bringing the Bulbasaur to counter it. It's a pretty good situation. It takes 7 for the Thunderbolt every time, so I want to try and... I first try and CMP them on the Bubble Beam here after 5. Also always takes 5. And then I throw 1 more Vine Whip to try and CMP them on the Thunderbolt. And we do get the CMP. Now they either have to let the Chinchou go or shield and expend the energy. Now we come out with just about enough energy to get to another Seed Bomb onto this Pharisee. It does have a lot of energy, this Pharisee, but it only has steel charge moves, and Ducklett is kind of bulky as you can get in this little cup. So even a Flash Cannon, which is a pretty huge nuke move, doesn't take out even half of the Ducklett's health. So we take that game. That is a very good game. Next game, lead into a Pharisee. Very good lead for Ducklett. It is running Tackle. It takes 17 turns for the Iron Head and 24 turns for the Flash Cannon. So that's the equivalent of 8.5 wing attacks from Ducklett or 12 wing attacks from Ducklett. So they throw the Iron Head immediately. We go for the Brave Bird thinking they have to shield twice. We can't get to 2 Brave Birds here, or just let it go. They do let it go. Bring in Chinchou. We bring in Chikorita. And that is a good game. They probably had Wooper in the back. Next game, lead into another Chinchou. Yikes. Swap in Chikorita. And they swap in Quick Attack, regular Vulpix. And this is a little bit differently, because the Body Slam doesn't do quite enough damage to this. So I play it differently. I choose to let my Chikorita go. The Shadow Chikorita can take a Weather Ball from that range just about, and then they get a little bit more farm. Now, Ducklett can threaten Chikorita quite a bit with the Brave Bird, so getting a farm down like this is pretty huge on Ducklett. Obviously, it's a terrible matchup for Ducklett, but even against Chinchou, it's not hopeless. So we do get this massive farm down, get up to a Brave Bird. They're probably going to bring back in the Chinchou. We go for the Brave Bird. This would do quite a lot of damage. And now I'm going to swap into Bulbasaur, hoping to put something else into farm down range. They do go for the Body Slam here, or a Bubble Beam, so we can easily take it. So now we're going to try and put this into farm down range so we can maybe get to another Brave Bird onto the Chinchou. And with the Vine Whips the Bulbasaur did, it's going to be very close. Go for the Seed Bomb. Ducklets usually tend to shield the first move because they like to debuff stuff before taking a move, so that's why I went for the shield. They do decide to just go for the full farm down. We do get up the Sludge Bomb, and this is going to come down to whether they have Bubble Beam or not, and they do. We have to shield them, even though they're going to do barely anything because we're going to get farmed down otherwise. If they didn't run Bubble Beam, this Brave Bird might be enough to take out. It would be very close. But because we get 2-stage debuffed on our attack, the Brave Bird is not enough to take out Chinchou. Very close game, despite of a very, very bad lead. Next game, lead into a Shadow Vulpix. This is a very good lead. You also see him running Bubble Beam in the first couple of games. I like Aerial Ace more. I have been experimenting with a few different movesets. Brave Bird is definitely the way to go, I feel. Go for the Bubble Beam immediately after shielding the first Body Slam, but my opponent just decides to let this go because Bubble Beam is really not all that good of a move. They tried to CMP time me again. It's 5 for the first, 4 for the second, 5 for the third, but in the moment, for some reason, I thought it was 4 every time for Body Slam. I thought Quick Attack was a 9 energy move for some reason, so I do go for another Bubble Beam unnecessarily. I think we could have farmed them down, but we bring in the Chikorita on the Chinchou. They swap in Ducklett, and this is alright. Go for the first Body Slam. Again, they generally shield the first move. Go for a second Body Slam on CMP. Pretty nice. And now Chikorita has no energy, so if they decide to throw a flying move, we're just gonna let them take us out. Now bring in the Ducklett onto their Ducklett. Obviously we want Bulbasaur onto the Chikorita, or the Chinchou. Why do I keep mixing those two up? They go for the Aerial Ace, take out the Ducklett. It takes 6 for the first 2 Aerial Aces, 5 for the third one, so we can CMP the Ducklett here. Bulbasaur's always gonna win CMP in this matchup. Ducklett is not very good at winning CMPs. We do shield this up. It's definitely gonna be the move that's gonna hurt the most. And then they're gonna bring in the Chikorita, or the Chinchou. It is called Chinchou, but we outpaced them to a Seed Bomb. A Thunderbolt does about 51% here. So it's a pretty good thing we outpace, and the Seed Bomb is just about enough to take out the Chinchou, and we win that game. Going to the next game, very good lead, or pretty good lead into Cottony. And they swap into a Ducklett. I hate this matchup. It is so bait dependent. Like, if you land a Brave Bird, it's great. If they call the Bubble Beam, it is so bad. They overfarm a bit and then go for their own move. We can't take the Brave Bird at this point. It does about 77%. I call it. It's just an Aerial Ace. Now we go for the Brave Bird. This would take them out. It does take them out. And now we want to swap out immediately because we're debuffed. Into Chikorita. Chikorita is always the safe swap. It takes 7 for the Seed Bomb for Cottony and 9 for the Grass Knot. So we go for the first Body Slam, and we should just about be able to outpace them to another one, which would be enough to take them out. But now they can farm us down. It only has grass charge moves, so it would make sense to bring in the Bulbasaur, but because they're so low and they only have one Pokemon in the back, I kind of want to bring in Ducklett to try and farm them down so I can debuff whatever they have in the back where they have no chance of swapping out. So either they just have to let themselves get farmed down, or they have to switch lock themselves. So no matter what, we get this Bubble Beam onto a switch lock Pokemon. It happens to be Chinchou. It's often Chinchou. They for some reason shield the Bubble Beam, and then we bring in Bulbasaur. It didn't really make any difference if they shielded or not, because Bulbasaur would have taken them out. But yeah, that is another good game. Next game, we lead into a Ducklett. This is such a tough matchup to call. You can lift the Brave Bird, but it's not very comfortable. They go for an Aerial Ace bait. We go for the Brave Bird. We shielded the Aerial Ace. They shield the Brave Bird. Now we have to swap out because we're debuffed. It's not the ideal lead to see, Ducklett, or the ideal save swap really. You pretty much have to have a Chinchou in order to deal with it. Shield the Aerial Ace, thinking that when we only have one shield, they're less incentivized to bait. Again, it takes 6 for the first 2, 5 for the third one, so we go up to the CMP tie for the second one. They should almost take out the Ducklett. But because they're not swapping out, I'm thinking they might be weak to grass in the back. So if we can get an energy advantage on Bulbasaur, that might be very huge. As in, they would probably swap in Vulpix if they had it. Get in Bulbasaur. What do they bring in? They bring in Wooper. They are very, very weak to Bulbasaur in the back. There was a little bit of stutter lag there, so for some reason they got their move off before we got ours off. But that's alright. Overfarm a little bit more, then go for the Seed Bomb. It takes 4 for every Body Slam for the Wooper, 5, 4 for Mud Bombs. Then they bring in Chinchou. We go straight for the Seed Bomb. We're gonna want to get out of here as soon as possible to not give them any more farm. Bring in Ducklett. They have to load up to a Thunderbolt and a move for the Bulbasaur because they cannot farm down the Bulbasaur. So yeah, there's probably nothing they can do here really. Maybe they could have gone for the Bubble Beam on the Ducklett. Hope they could farm down afterwards. I'm not really sure. Next game, lead into another duck. Yikes. At this point, I've swapped over to Aerial Ace. Got inspiration from my last opponent. It feels a little bit less risky to go for an Aerial Ace bait rather than a Bubble Beam bait. They go straight for the Brave Bird. We do shield it. That's great. Go for the Aerial Ace. They no shield it. And swap into an Exeggcute. We don't have a clear response to this. Ducklett is probably our best response to this. Or it is the best response. So they shield the first Aerial Ace and then they go for a move. It is the Ancient Power. Takes 4 for the Ancient Power. And then they get the boost, which means they can farm us down with 2 Confusions and come out with some energy after shielding this. We have to bring in the Chikorita. Bulbasaur cannot take Confusion damage. They do get to another move. It is another Ancient Power. This almost takes out Chikorita, but not quite. They get another boost. I am so good at getting boosts against me, I feel. I undercharged this to leave them with 1 Vine Whip's worth of health, in the hopes that I could farm them down with Bulbasaur, get ahead on energy, but they do swap in Ducklett, and then we can just farm it down. And then they bring in a Shroomish. And this thing only has grass moves as well. It does have Tackle as the fast move, but its charge moves are all grass. So we should be alright here. It takes 14 for it to get to the Seed Bomb. So yeah, we do outpace it to the Seed Bomb of our own. We take out the Shroomish, and now we should be able to farm down the Exeggcute. And that is another good game. Next game, lead into a Shadow Lileep. In these situations, we have 3 like pretty neutral matchups. I kind of like to just go straight for the Brave Bird and then dip. I am expecting the shield because they cannot survive this, but no, they just let it go. Boom! We take out the Lileep, then bring in the Chikorita because we're debuffed. We just want to swap out immediately. They have a Ducklett. This is not the best matchup. Again, they like to shield the first move because they want to debuff before taking a move. Then we go for another Body Slam. And they're just farming us all the way down. I'm thinking they might not be strong against grass since they stayed in and spent this many resources on the Ducklett. Also, if they go for a Brave Bird, you cannot have 2 Brave Birds because it's 55 energy and you can only have 100. So if they go straight for the Brave Bird, they must be at least 2 fast moves away from the second Brave Bird. You can store an Aerial Ace and a Brave Bird. So we go straight for the Brave Bird against the Seal, and now we're just going to sacrifice this Ducklett, just let them take us out, so we can farm this down with Bulbasaur, get ahead on energy, and now there's no way the Ducklett is going to get to 2 Flying type charge moves before we get to the Seed Bomb. It was even a CMP. This should take out the Ducklett. And that is another very good game. That Brave Bird in the beginning made quite a huge difference. Next game, lead into Chikorita. Good lead, especially when you're running Aerial Ace. It is quite awkward if you have Brave Bird because the bait game is just a nightmare. They go straight for a Body Slam. We can't take this. And then they swap into Ducklett. But this allows us to go for the Brave Bird and dip, essentially. If they no shield, it's great. If they shield, we have shield advantage. But we have to bring in Chikorita onto a Ducklett, which is not ideal. I do go for the shield here. And they bait with Bubble Beam. Yikes. Go for another Body Slam before they get to another Bubble Beam. Don't want to allow them to debuff me twice before we get off another move. No shield the second one. Don't want to spend 2 shields here. And they go for the Aerial Ace. And that takes out Chikorita. That is not ideal. Then bring in Ducklett. And we should be able to outpace them to this Aerial Ace. It does about 33%. So it should take out their Ducklett. Now, what do they have in the back? It's a Seal. It takes 15 turns for the Seal to get to an Icicle or to an Icy Wind. It takes 12 for the Aqua Tail. So we should be able to outpace to the Seed Bomb. 15 turns is the equivalent of 7.5 Vine Whips, which is the easy way to count this. And then they bring in Chikorita after debuffing our attack. And the Chikorita outpaces the Bulbasaur. So now we have to farm up to a Sludge Bomb and a Seed Bomb. This is where we want to farm up because the Vine Whips do a lot less damage than the Licks. So we go for the Sludge Bomb. We cannot do any more Vine Whips. And we just about a 1 short of the Seed Bomb. So the Seal takes out Bulbasaur. It outpaces Ducklett. And this obviously takes out the Ducklett as well. And that is a good game. Next game, lead into yet another Chinchou. This is actually not a bad lead. Obviously it's a bad lead, but I've been doing very well against them. They try to catch a move on their own Chikorita. I think they were trying to catch like a Grass Knot or something, but we go for the Body Slam because we don't have Grass Knot. Obviously the opponent doesn't know that we're running Frustration. Unfortunately, I didn't get to land any Frustration BMs. I would have loved to. But because they let us get so far ahead on energy, we can just very easily flip switch here by shielding twice. And then we're going to get the Bulbasaur onto Chikorita and Ducklett onto whatever they have in the back. Chikorita is very good at winning switch. Go for another Body Slam. Just going to shield this again. And now they should be 5 away from the next one because they're on their 3rd cycle. So we can overfarm by 1 and then go for the Body Slam. Now we come out with a little bit of energy. And we should be able to get to another move on whatever they bring in. They bring in a Lileep. And we overfarm. And then they make a very nice play. They save all the energy on Lileep and then snipe with a Bubble Beam. But this also just allows me to bring in Bulbasaur, farm them all the way down and come out with a lot of energy. But the Lileep, it takes 4 for every Ancient Power, which is what I'm the most afraid of. It also has a Grass move, which I didn't really see in play. It also takes 4 for the first and then 3 for the second, I think, with the Stunish. They go for the Ancient Power. And I know that Bulbasaur is going to win CMP, and because it takes 4 for each Ancient Power, it would have been able to outpace or get to the Ancient Power at the same time as I got to my Brave Bird to take out the Ducklett without the Ducklett landing any charge moves. But because Bulbasaur is going to win CMP, I can just go for the Aerial Ace, and then because I know I'm like put the Lileep into a range where 1 Seed Bomb is enough to take it out, because I know Bulbasaur is going to be able to win CMP in the back. Next game, lead into yet another Ducklett. I saw some guy in the comment section call this the Ducklett and Chinchou Cup. It seems very, very fitting. We shield the first move, and it's a Bubble Beam. Yikes. We go for an Aerial Ace, and they shield it as well. And then we swap out to clear the debuff and to check if there is a Fire type in the back. And then they go for another Bubble Beam on our Chinchou or our Chikorita. I'm just gonna say those two the wrong way around all the time. I feel like I simply cannot learn what they're called. Go for a Body Slam, but because they went for that Bubble Beam, 2 Body Slams is not gonna be enough to take out this Bidoof. And the Bidoof is gonna get to a move, I feel, but it only has Grass charge moves. So we bring in the Bulbasaur to tank the energy here. And now they're gonna bring back in the Ducklett. I don't know why I want to call that double as well. We get to the Seed Bomb before they get to their move. This should just about be enough to take them out if they let it go. But they don't. I think it does about 38%. Yeah, it does 38%. And now we can just let this go. Bring in the Ducklett and shield once here. It is very tempting to try and call a Bubble Beam bait, especially when they've been baiting 3 times. But if this is a Brave Bird, which it is, it would take us out. Then they bring in their second Razor Leafer, and I hate Razor Leaf, so taking out a Razor Leafer like this, boom, is so satisfying. Lotad goes down, 1 shot with the Brave Bird, very nice. Next game, lead into a Chinchou. We swap in Chikorita once again. This time I played a little bit differently against the Vulpix save counter swamp. Go for the Body Slam, because Chikorita can still do a lot of damage to this Vulpix in the 2 shield scenario. And because we are throwing 4 charge moves in total, 6 charge moves in total, the switch timer will come up. So we might be able to catch a Weather Ball onto Ducklett towards the end of this matchup. This Body Slam almost takes them out. I was very tempted for a quick second to try and Vine Whip them down, but they were 1 away and I wasn't quite sure. So I'd rather make sure I either grab the second shield or take them out, and then we catch the Weather Ball on Ducklett. Or so I thought, but they actually read that I was going to swap in the Ducklett and they went for the Body Slam. Body Slam only does about 43% to Shadow Chikorita, so it wouldn't have taken out the Shadow Chikorita. If I'd stayed in, I would have just 1 switch. They bring back in the Chinchou. We want to go for the Brave Bird as soon as possible to give them as little farm as possible by debuffing our defense. then bring in Bulbasaur to take this Thunderbolt. Could have brought in Chikorita. It takes the moves more comfortably because it's more bulky. But if I had taken the move of Chikorita, I was afraid that they might have been able to farm it down afterwards. So I brought in the Bulbasaur, and now we one-shot their Bulbasaur with a Sludge Bomb as well. And that is a very good game. Final game, only fitting, lead into yet another Chinchou. And this person has Shadow Vulpix in the back with Quick Attack. It is so satisfying because people just don't know. How would you? People just don't know that Chikorita can flip this matchup with one Vine Whip. So we bring out the shield. They go for a shield as well. Now we get to another Body Slam. These two pace to their moves at the exact same time, which is why it's possible to do this. And now we land the Body Slam. They go up to 8, meaning they're 1 away from the back-to-back Weather Balls. They go for 1, and they don't get off their second one. So now we flip switch, come out with a lot of energy. But now they're going to bring in Ducklett to farm us down. And Ducklett with energy is always going to be scary. We can't swap out, obviously. We have to just let them farm us down so we can get Bulbasaur into the Chinchou. Go for a second Body Slam. This will either bring them low or take the shield. It grabs the shield. They overfarm quite a bit here. And then they go for a move. And I'm not really sure. A Brave Bird wouldn't have been enough, but I'm not really sure why they went for the Bubble Beam. I waited a turn to make sure the Ducklett is still in there. But I think they also waited a turn and then they still caught the move on their Chinchou. Now we bring in Bulbasaur. They will be able to get to a Thunderbolt and a Bubble Beam. But yeah, Bulbasaur can quite comfortably live the Thunderbolt and also this Bubble Beam. As I say, it takes 7 for every Thunderbolt, 5 for every Bubble Beam. So this is no way it's a Thunderbolt. And now Bulbasaur will be able to win CMP against Ducklett, even if it did throw a move, which it didn't for some reason. So go for the Sludge Bomb, take out the Ducklett, and that is a good game. And that was the third 4-1 set in a row for this meta. And we finished today with 35-42 elo. That was the last battle for today, and overall I think this is a very good and very flexible team for the Element Cup that I would definitely recommend for climbing. Other than that, fun fact of the day, a very good Shadow Vulpix will be able to win the 2 shields versus Chikorita, Shadow Chikorita, even if the Chikorita has that 1 Vine Whip's advantage, because it can just about lift that Body Slam with like 1 HP left. So if you have a very good Shadow Chikorita with low attack, you might not, like, it's not like 100% consistent, but most of the time you will be able to win that because most people don't have a very good Shadow Vulpix. Other than that, if you like what you see or you feel like you learned something, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.